And the new season has begun, which is really exciting. Feels a bit weird, to be honest, because we usually have a very lengthy off season, and it kind of gets boring. You start missing football, even if there is international football, like the FIFA World Cup or the Euros out there. You still kind of miss watching your club. But this time around, I think there's been very less time, to get bored. Especially for a Liverpool fan, we got to celebrate. The title win for a good couple of weeks, and after that, the new season, the preparation for the new season, the excitement and the transfer sagas had already begun. And I think because of this, obviously there is little or no pre-season for teams, especially I think for those who were in Europe. Man United, for example, have had one pre-season game. I think they played against Aston Villa this weekend. They lost that one, so it feels a bit weird, and I'm sure it feels a bit weird for the clubs as well, because I think it's anyway going to be a very condensed season, so it's not like you're going to have a very easy start. I think a lot of teams would have to hit the ground running if they want to achieve their ambitions this season, and I think it makes it slightly difficult for certain teams. On top of that, you had the international break as well, so that means even lesser time for the clubs to prepare with their players. Could result in injuries as well, especially for teams who are who don't have a very big squad, outside of probably the traditional big teams. It could be a really difficult season for them as well. But another difficulty that people thought would be part of this season was the financial restrictions that would be on players on clubs rather, because of the pandemic. But it doesn't seem like that has been the case for a lot of clubs. Chelsea have gone for it, Man United have gone for it, Arsenal look like they want to go for it. Liverpool have said they cannot go for it, but might go for it. So let's see what happens. But I think Chelsea is probably the team that has strengthened the most. I think they've given it a good go in the transfer market, especially when you talk about the attacking prospects, that have come into Chelsea. They played against Brighton last night. They won 3-1. I thought first half was a bit even. I think Brighton gave them something to think about. I think Lallana was quite impressive in the beginning. I think was looking very bright. So I think after that, I think Chelsea's quality was a bit too much for Brighton to take. Even though I don't think Chelsea was at its best. They were still quite rusty. But I still feel they just had too much for Brighton, who might have really tough season. I don't think they'll be in a really comfortable situation at the end of the season. They could be fighting for relegation, and with Lallana injured, you don't know how long he's going to be out for. I think that could be a big blow for Brighton. And talking about Chelsea, I think probably the most exciting transfer window. At least on paper, they've got some really exciting talents who've come in. Two of them made their debut against Brighton last night. A 3-1 win for Chelsea, which was, I wouldn't say I was really impressed by Chelsea. I still think they looked really rusty. In the first half, I felt Brighton gave them something to think about, but I think overall, I think Chelsea just had too much quality for Brighton to do anything about. Brighton themselves, I think, might be in for a really tough season, could be in a relegation battle, and I think with losing Adam Lallana, I don't know how long he's out for, but I think that could be a big loss as well if Lallana's out for quite some time. But let's talk about Chelsea. That's the exciting part, I guess. So I think last season for Chelsea finished with a lot of good vibes. Pulisic was probably the player people were really impressed by. I think after the restart, I thought Pulisic was one of the most impressive players, not just in the Premier League but overall. I think in world football, he was scoring really good goals, looking really threatening, and I think with Giroud, I think Giroud just got the best out of him. Giroud, I think, would get the best out of almost any winger. He's just an absolute dream to play with, and I think Willian was fantastic as well for Chelsea. But I think what's happened with the amount of new players that have come in is that it sort of gives me a feeling that they need to start from scratch again, in the sense that if you look at the front line, it's almost completely different. Willian's gone to Arsenal. Giroud probably starts the season as the third choice behind Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham and Pulisic. Obviously he's going to be part of the starting 11. He's definitely going to be part of the strongest 11 of Chelsea. And there's Kai Havertz, who's part of the attacking quartet, or maybe with alongside Hakim Ziyech. Yeah, so it seems like they'll need time to gel together, and that I don't think Chelsea might have the luxury of so much time, especially given the kind of quality that Liverpool and Manchester City already possess. It could probably be too big an ask for Chelsea to compete for the title. Talking about their new signings, I think Timo Werner was impressive. I thought he's very different to what Olivier Giroud is. It looks like he doesn't like to just stay in the box, wait for tap-ins. He seems like the kind of forward who likes to drift wide, drift into the midfield, which is good, and that's the reason I really wanted him at Liverpool. Klopp wanted him at Liverpool, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get the deal through, which is quite disappointing. But I think he's going to be a fine signing for Chelsea. Very different to the kind of strikers they've had. But looking forward to what Timo Werner brings to the Premier League. Kai Havertz I thought was disappointing. Obviously, I think we shouldn't make judgments after one game. It's really unfair, but I thought he was really poor. His defensive work rate wasn't good enough. I think even in an attacking sense, I wasn't really excited by what I saw. But I'm sure given the kind of talent he possesses, it's probably a matter of time before we see what he's capable of producing. I think if anyone follows the Bundesliga, you've seen what he can do. He can do things that I don't think many people of his age can even think of doing. But obviously he's quite raw as a talent, and it probably takes some time for Lampard and Chelsea to bring the best out of him. And let's see how that one goes. But I was really surprised, to be honest, that Chelsea went for Havertz and did not go in for someone like Koulibaly, or go in for a keeper. Maybe of 70 million keeper, someone like Oblak or someone like that. But it looks like they've given it a good go, in terms of their attacking strength, and it's really exciting. I think last year Chelsea, probably there was a lot of feel-good factor about Chelsea, isn't it? Suddenly Chelsea became a likable club, which is not the case most of the times, because they had so mmany young players coming through: Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Tomori, Hudson-Odoi, Loftus-Cheek rather didn't play that much last season, but still he was part of that youth squad. Reece James, obviously, he's been phenomenal. So many good players coming through the ranks, and everyone was feeling really good about Chelsea. But it seems like they're back to what they do, which is invest in players, invest in the best talent in the world, and nothing wrong with that, to be honest. If there's one thing I respect about Chelsea, it's the fact that they are really ambitious, and they've got a winning mentality. They're not the kind of club who'd stay stagnant for a long time. And am I surprised? No. But it just, as I said, it just feels like Lampard needs to start from scratch, rebuild cohesion within that starting 11, and see how it goes. So probably needs at least a year to get to know what his best 11 could be, what his best formation could be, and once he figures that out, maybe we can look forward to a very exciting Chelsea team in the future. So let's talk about Arsenal now. Really exciting times. I think for the first time in I don't know how many years, Arsenal seem to be going into a new season with optimism. Every year it's so negative, fans complaining about the lack of signings, about wanting to see the back of the manager. Even under Wenger, Unai Emery, it was just so bad. And I think for the first time it seems like there is a belief around what the club is trying to do. I think the fans are buying what Arteta wants, how Arteta envisions Arsenal's progress over the next few years. And I think it really showed in the first game against Fulham. I think they were really impressive, absolutely smashed Fulham 3-0. Not that I was expecting Fulham to give them a tough time, because I do expect Fulham to go down, fully expect them to go down. So I wasn't surprised, but I think still the manner in which Arsenal played, the manner in which Arsenal imposed their presence on the match, I think it showed that they were moving in a positive direction. Two debutants for them, Willian and Gabriel. I'd like to reserve my judgment on Gabriel. I'd like to see him perform against Liverpool, Manchester City, and those types of teams before passing a judgment on what I think he is like, or in terms of quality and in terms of style of play. But I think he was impressive against Fulham. He was really composed, strong, got a goal as well. So a good debut for him. Willian, he's a wily old customer. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's someone who just performs really well for the team. 3 assists to start with, which is really good. So Arteta bringing in some really positive vibes. But I'm really interested, in seeing how Arsenal perform when the fans come back to the stadium, because like I said, Arsenal fans aren't shy of showing discontent. They aren't shy of booing their players, and given the kind of football that Arsenal play, which is not expansive, entertaining football, it's defensive and conservative in a sense. I'd like to see how the crowd reacts, and depending on how the crowd reacts, how the players react. I'm really interested, to see how that works out for them. So exciting times nonetheless. Really looking forward to what Arteta is going to do this season for Arsenal. Really exciting times. So let's talk about Liverpool versus Leeds. Wow, what a match that was! That was some entertainment, man. As a neutral, you couldn't have asked for a better game, on opening day. Sensational. And Liverpool started with a goal, and I thought, okay, this could be too much for Leeds to take, but they didn't back down. They gave us a good go, and I think in terms of hard work, in terms of everything else apart from quality, I think they gave us a good run for our money. But I think quality eventually, was just too much for Leeds to take. And I think it also showed, the elite mentality that this Liverpool team possesses. They just refuse to lose. They just, even I think after the 80th minute when it was 3-3, I was so calm. I just knew we were going to get a 4th goal. I just knew it, and we did. And man, Mo Salah was on fire. He looked like a man on a mission. And I think he's just gotten way too much disrespect over the last couple of years. Obviously, he hasn't reached the heights of what he did in 2017-18, and I think that is probably the reason for it. But I think he deserves to be mentioned amongst some of the best players in the world. Absolute cream. And I think this season he's going to prove a point. I'm pretty sure he's going to have a great season this year. Expect him to be Liverpool's Player of the Year, to be honest. I was really surprised that Klopp decided to drop Fabinho. I genuinely feel that I think after Van Dijk, he's probably the next name on the team sheet. He's just phenomenal. I think what he gives to that Liverpool midfield and the support that he gives to the defense, I don't think you can replace that. I think Henderson was fantastic in that position, yes, but if there is a choice to play Henderson alongside Fabinho, I would always choose that. I don't know what was the reason, to be honest. I don't know whether he wanted to play Gini just to show him some love. There's obviously rumors of him not wanting to sign a contract, wanting to move to Barcelona. So maybe it was that. I don't know, but I hope to see Fabinho back in the starting 11 against Chelsea. A lot of drama for Liverpool fans obviously this season in terms of midfielders. Thiago, obviously, my God. I think Liverpool Twitter has probably gone crazy with the Thiago transfer saga. I personally think that it might not happen. Why I think so is that I honestly feel Liverpool are quite stacked in midfield. and it could just be a ploy from Liverpool to just to put pressure on Gini Wijnaldum to sign a contract, and it seems like it could work, because we read some rumors on Twitter suggesting that Klopp has had talks with Gini Wijnaldum, and Wijnaldum now wants to stay. That's his first choice over going to Barcelona. So yeah, let's see what happens there. But yeah, I think if Thiago does come in, I think it would be a magnificent signing. He was just sensational in the Champions League this season, controlling games from a deeper role. I think him alongside Fabinho would be just absolute dream to have in midfield. And obviously you have Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Curtis Jones, so many options in midfield to play alongside them. I think it would be fantastic if we could get them. But I think more than that, I actually wanted some support for the front three. I think we've been really fortunate in terms of the fitness of the front three. They've always been there, but whenever in the odd game where one of them isn't available, you see a definite drop in terms of quality, because I don't think Origi is at the same level, Shaqiri is not at the same level, Elliott is just way too young, Minamino, we don't know. I think we need to probably see more of him this season to get a good idea of what he's going to bring into the picture. But yeah, I think still linked to Ismaila Sarr of Watford. For around 40 million, which could probably be too much for Liverpool. The suggestions are that they don't have money to spend, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, do lack of signings impact our season? Probably yes. If you look at the most successful team during the Premier League era was Alex Ferguson's Man United, and they were never stagnant for 2 seasons. They always gotten new players. They kept adding one good player, even after they won league title, just to make sure that things are fresh and everyone is on their toes. And I think as a Liverpool fan, I would probably expect the same from our owners, from our manager. But for whatever reason, if we're not able to do it, I guess it's okay, because I think this season, as I said, it's going to be a very condensed season, and I think the most important quality in terms of when looking at a squad is going to be the continuity. I think we've probably got the most settled team out of everyone in the top 6, and I think that could prove to be a huge advantage, because there's obviously going to be less time to get things right, and I think that could prove to be a big advantage for us. And Klopp said the same thing in his press conference when he was asked about the lack of signings, and I sort of agree with him. So Chelsea next week, really excited for it. I'm really happy we're playing Chelsea next week and not 2 or 3 months down the line, because I feel things are still quite uncertain at Chelsea in terms of what their starting 11 is going to be, who are they going to play. Havertz and Werner are still quite new to the league. We might see Thiago Silva, or I'm not sure what's the status there. Pulisic might be fit, but yeah, let's see. Even if he plays, I'm not too worried, to be honest. I think if we play at the level that I expect Liverpool to play, I think we should be able to get a result and get 3 points even. So I'm really looking forward to that. But apart from the Liverpool game, I think the match I was most excited for was probably Spurs versus Everton, and I did not expect what happened, to be honest. I think Ancelotti's team just looks really good. I think they finally look like a team which has some bite in it. The midfield has got character. I absolutely love Allen. I think he's been phenomenal for Napoli, hasn't he? And I think him and Doucouré, add that much needed steel in midfield. And they also have the depth. They've got Fabian Delph in midfield. They've got Gabamin. Andre Gomez played as the number 10. They've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, who can play as the number 10 as well. James Rodriguez started on the right, and I thought he had a very good game. Just kept pinging in diagonal balls to Richarlison, but maybe we're going to see a lot of that. But yeah, I think he just seemed like someone who could find players, in the front line, and I think I'm really excited, looking at James Rodriguez and what he can bring, to Everton and to the Premier League. because I genuinely feel he's someone who's got immense quality, but I think he just needs a manager to trust, his abilities, and get the best out of him. And I think if we can see a James Rodriguez, of 2014, or of probably his very initial days at Real Madrid, I think we are in for a treat. And I think Everton have probably got a great signing if that's the case. And you probably back a manager like Ancelotti to do that. But the player I was impressed with the most was probably Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I've been impressed with him for quite some time, to be honest. And I think this is the season where he actually hits good levels. I'm looking at 15-16 league goals at least from him this season, maybe more. He could easily hit the 20 goal mark. I wouldn't be surprised by it, to be honest. I genuinely feel he's someone who's got who's good in the air, who's good with his feet. He's decently quick, and he's quite lethal actually. I think he probably is quite underrated as a striker, but I really rate him quite highly, and I'm really looking forward to what he can bring to Everton's game this season. Surely going to be the undisputed number 9. I don't think Moise Kean is has settled in really well. Maybe that will change this season, but at least for now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks like he's nailed on to start in that Everton 11, and with the kind of quality that's behind him, he can expect really good service, and he's going to get a lot of goals. But one team I did not expect to see struggle so much was probably Tottenham. I actually had good hopes. From the first game, I thought Tottenham will assert themselves, make a statement, but that wasn't the case. Especially given how poor Everton's record is against the top 6, I thought I expected Tottenham to get good convincing 2-0 win, but that wasn't the case. I think their midfield could not cope up with Everton's midfield. I think their attack just looked very boring, and they seemed like a team out of ideas. And usually Jose Mourinho's second season is when he gets the best out of his team, but I did not see those signs. To be honest with you, I think Tottenham have got very, very good first 8 fixtures, and if they do not end up in the top 4 after the first 8 game weeks, I don't see them finishing anywhere near to it. And I think it'll be sad in the sense that I think Jose Mourinho, it's been a very steep decline after his exit from Chelsea, and I think this is probably his last chance to show that he still belongs amongst the elite group of managers. I think if this Tottenham journey ends in a disappointment, he could become obsolete at the end of this season, which is sad because I really enjoy watching Mourinho. Probably not on the Prime Video documentary. I think I think it's a bit embarrassing. Look, I'm going to talk about it. I think it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest, seeing a man like Jose Mourinho being undermined. A manager who's held in such a high regard by everyone, being undermined by a player like Danny Rose. No disrespect to Danny Rose, but obviously he's nowhere close to the stature of Jose Mourinho. And I didn't like to see it. I didn't like the fact that he threw his teammates under the bus, for a shit performance against Liverpool. And yeah, I mean, look, as a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't want to see my club coming out with documentaries like that. Obviously, I think all of us are fascinated to think of how Klopp would manage the clubs, his man management, how he works daily. But I think some things are best abstracted from the fans. And I think as a neutral, probably it's entertainment. It's got entertainment value for sure. But yeah, I don't want Liverpool to come up with something like that. I think Manchester City's documentary was really good because they had an amazing season. It was a record-breaking season. You couldn't get anything wrong. But I think the Tottenham one is just a meme fest, to be honest. And finally, let's talk about some transfers. So I think the saga everyone has their eye on is probably Jadon Sancho and his linked move to Manchester United. Um, I think a few weeks back it just looked like a matter of time, but now it just it doesn't seem that straightforward. It seems like Man United and Borussia Dortmund are way off in terms of their evaluation of the player. Dortmund seem to be wanting close to 108 million pounds, which is a lot of money, especially I think during these times it is a lot of money. But I think Man United need to get that transfer done. They ended the season on a high, and I think if they can get Jadon Sancho in, I think it would be an absolutely amazing signing. For a couple of reasons. One, I think it adds a lot of quality to their attack, which is already impressive, to be honest, with the kind of players that they have. But I also feel that if they don't get it across the line this season, they could face a lot of competition for him next year. I think I would totally expect Liverpool to spend next year, if they don't do anything in the next 2-3 weeks. And you never know, they could want to go to they could want to buy Jadon Sancho as probably a long-term replacement for Mane or Salah, or just as competition. And finally, Kalidou Koulibaly. Look, I feel if Manchester City do not get a defender, I don't think they are favourites to win the league. They already lost Vincent Kompany, a couple of seasons back. I think, but they already missed the defender Vincent Kompany, but I feel they missed the leader a lot more. And this season, they've lost another captain. It's now 2 captains in 2 seasons with David Silva gone. I think they need some reinforcements. Ferran Torres, obviously a very, very exciting player, someone who's rated very highly in Spain. But is he better than Sane? I don't know. Maybe definitely not, right now. Sane, I'm a huge fan of Sane. Sane is probably at a different level. But I think they still need reinforcements. Fernandinho is a year older, Aguero is a year older. I think they need Koulibaly to strengthen that defense, because without it, even though their attacks can blow teams away, I think they are still so vulnerable against teams that can hit them hard on the counter. And I think that would be a really good signing if they can get Koulibaly in. Sure, I think they become the favourites to win the league. Without him, definitely not, in my opinion. But yeah, who knows? So that's it for this episode of That Football Show. I'd be talking a lot about football, Premier League especially, and cricket as well. The IPL is going to start next week, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So there'll be a lot of content on this channel, guys. Do like this video, share this video, and and do subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have discussions with you in the comment section as well. Feel free to comment. It'd be really exciting. So looking forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you so much for watching this. Bye bye.